So Donald Trump had his little summit with Vladimir Putin today. Afterwards, they had a press conference, and when it was all said and done, nothing was agreed upon. Nothing happened. It was a nothing burger. Now, a lot of people were surprised by that. I was not. In fact, prior to the summit, I said many times, nothing's going to happen here. Nothing's going to happen. And the reason I said that is because there was nothing set up in advance. Well, there was one thing. There was a lie. Steve Witkoff, the special envoy for Donald Trump to Russia, wanted to make Donald Trump happy, and he was more than willing to lie about it. He said that Vladimir Putin agreed on some terms and that we had something to talk about. Well, ultimately, it was found out that Steve Witkoff lied, and at that point, they should have probably just said, yeah, let's not do the summit. There's really no point in doing it. But Donald Trump loves the attention. He needs the distraction. And he's not good at saying, oh, we fucked up, we should maybe try another time. So he went ahead with this summit, knowing that nothing could come from it because Vladimir Putin hasn't changed his stance at all. Vladimir Putin has one thing that he wants in order to end this war, and that is that Ukraine give up their sovereignty and their land and let him take over. That's all Vladimir Putin wants. He's not going to settle for less. And with that in mind, and the fact that Zelensky would never agree to that, there was never a chance of any kind of ceasefire or negotiations. They're just too far apart. I mean, on top of that, if you're going to have a summit and Vladimir Putin is there and Donald Trump is there, but Zelensky isn't there, how are you going to come to any terms? You hear what Vladimir Putin says, and then you run to Zelensky, and Zelensky says no, and then Vladimir Putin says no. This was a joke from the beginning. This was an absolute joke. But Donald Trump needed the attention and needed the distraction. Think about what happened today. Vladimir Putin has not been in this country for 10 years. And why? Because he's feared and hated throughout the world. Now, in the United States, we don't recognize the ICC, but in 123 other countries, had Vladimir Putin showed up there, he would have been arrested and jailed because he's a war criminal. So now Donald Trump gives him a certain amount of credibility by bringing him to the United States. And he just doesn't bring him to the United States. When a plane lands, he rolls out a red carpet, literally a red carpet for Vladimir Putin, who walks down the stairs, walks up the red carpet, walks up to the most powerful man in the world, Donald Trump. I hate to say that, but it's true. And they shake hands and they laugh and they giggle and they do all that stuff. The only person that won this little meeting was Vladimir Putin because he got credibility from the President of the United States that nobody in the world would give him. And Donald Trump just handed it to him on a silver platter. So they go in and they have their little conversation. Everybody's going, whoa, I wonder what's going to happen. Is there going to be a ceasefire? Is there going to be something like that? Well, of course there's not. Because Donald Trump can't speak for Zelensky. Zelensky's not there. And Vladimir Putin is not moving. He's not going to move off what he wants. So now they have to come out in the press conference. Vladimir Putin gives some fucking history lesson. And as soon as that happened, I told my wife, I go, ain't nothing happening here. That wouldn't be the lead if they come to some kind of terms. Now, what you have to understand about Vladimir Putin, he does not want peace, which is crazy when you think about it, because of all the people that are dying. Yes, Ukraine has lost hundreds of thousands of people. It's an absolute tragedy. But his own country, Russia, has lost more than 1 million people. But Vladimir Putin doesn't care about that because he's a murderous dictator. He doesn't give a shit. Vladimir Putin has something in common with Benjamin Netanyahu. They want to perpetuate war because as long as the wars are raging, whether it be Israel and Hamas or Russia and Ukraine, they're safe in their power. Once those wars end and there's peace, they can be pushed out, ultimately jailed. They're both convicted war criminals. People around the world are not happy with this guy and would just soon, or either guy, would just as soon put them in prison. So there's no motivation for peace. It's all about continuing the war. So to think Donald Trump could walk in and talk Vladimir Putin into peace with Ukraine, that's fucking crazy. That's absolutely fucking crazy. Now, there is a way that Donald Trump could apply some leverage to Vladimir Putin. He either hasn't thought about it or just refuses to do it. The only way to fight a bully or a dictator is with force. That's really the only way. That's the only thing that they fucking understand. So how do you do that? Well, America has about $300 billion that is frozen of Russia's money. $300 billion of frozen Russian money. You unfreeze that money, you give it to Ukraine and say, buy all the bombs and shit you want. Give Ukraine some strength. That's the only way this war ends. You can't sit with Vladimir Putin and expect him to do the decent thing. He will not do that. He has no motivation to fucking do that. So you got to do what Biden did and make Ukraine as strong as possible. You got to get the Republicans to stop the bullshit about not sending them weapons, because that's the only way you fight this situation. Let's be honest. Russia doesn't have the foot soldiers, the army that we thought they did. There was a lot of talk about how they're the strongest army. They're not. Ukraine can fight against these people, but they need the help of Europe and the United States to push back. Russia is not only a danger to Ukraine, Russia is a danger to all of Europe and all of the world. All of the world should be behind Ukraine and to put down that bully, Vladimir Putin. Europe understands that, but for some reason, Donald Trump does not. And all the Republicans that hated Russians and Vladimir Putin all these years now seem to side with Donnie because Donnie thinks he's a best buddy with Vladimir Putin. I'll tell you something about Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin doesn't appear or doesn't see Donald Trump as a buddy. He sees him as a clown. And how do I know that? Well, just the attitude coming into this summit. When they got off the plane, one of Vladimir Putin's advisors, Lavrov, you remember him. He's the Russian spy that spent so much time in the Oval Office in Donald Trump's first term. Yeah, he comes off at this very important summit, and he's wearing a fucking sweatshirt. On the sweatshirt, it says CCCP, or USSR in Russia. That's a nod to what Russia and the USSR used to be and what Vladimir Putin wants it to be again. That was a spit in the face of America and Donald Trump. But it didn't stop there. You see, on the way over on the plane flight, they had dinner. Probably a very nice dinner. You know what they had? They had chicken Kiev. Yeah. This was a mockery by Vladimir Putin and Russia. They were making fun of Donald Trump and America as a whole. That's what they were doing. Yeah, nothing happened in this negotiation, this summit, and nothing is going to happen. As I've said, there is no motivation for Vladimir Putin to end this war. If the war ends, he's in trouble. So he must perpetuate the war. To think you can negotiate with him is silly. That's why the only way to beat Vladimir Putin and get peace in Russia and Ukraine is to hit him with strength, power. That's what Biden was doing. That's what they should do now. But Donald Trump refuses to do that. So thousands and thousands of people will die every day because Donald Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Sound familiar? Sounds like COVID. Yeah, that's what's going to happen there. Israel is going to go in and occupy Gaza and ship off the Palestinians to Sudan because Donald Trump just letting them do whatever the fuck they want to do. Yeah, nothing happened today, and all they did is push back the goalposts, and ultimately they will probably continue to do that, like with the tariffs in China. Donald Trump's all about delays. He's not about doing anything. He has no substance. It's all performative. And in the end, nothing gets done. And when nothing gets done, people die, thanks to Donald Trump.